Hi, welcome to my journey. Well, we just finished a training class. It was exactly until 1 o'clock. Bye. So yeah. Whew. Interesting enough. It looked like some people were supposed to go to the returning class, but they were returning and they came to the beginner's class. Ours should have been the beginner's class, and I think that's one of the reasons why, a lot of them, seemed like they had already knew about the job and how to do the job, and I did ask a couple of people. One guy said he had been a judge for three times, and before that he was a clerk, and I'm like, okay, all right, I'm totally new at it, right? Not to mention, even going to the polls, I'm new, right? So when we were setting up the table, I ended up getting my finger nipped on the legs. We're setting up the table, but But overall, it was a good class. Okay? For the most part. It just seems like to me, the things that I thought would be, difficult, to remember, or unfamiliar with, right? Of course they didn't. They didn't have to take no notes. Mm-hmm. 5 hours straight. Like I said, if it had been me, when it came to the tabulation machines and the e-polling machines, definitely, how do you do this? I definitely would have, just did it first. I would show them, like, this is how we're going to do it. Now you guys get into pairs, and now you do it. And I'll walk around if you have any questions, or if I see you struggling. Right? It's very difficult to have a lot of people doing the same thing at the same time, especially when it doesn't even have to be, the fault of the people. It could just be a fault of the machine. The machine could be tethering. Or like in one case, the machine had ran out of printer paper. Questions like, well, how do you know where your polling is going to be? All right. That's determined by the Democratic and the Republican Party. Right? And how many people they're willing to pay for. Okay? And then the Republicans and the Democrats have what they call poll watchers. And these are people that come in to watch the polling process. You have to bring 2 certified pieces of paper. And if they have any questions, they have to ask the judge. Right? Now the judge is in charge of making sure everything gets set up properly. Democrats, Republicans, and then here's the thing, right? Now, I believe I had picked primary election. Yeah, I had picked primary election day, right? Now, some people, they picked early voting day. So as soon as early voting day opens up, They have to go and set up every day, and close down every day. Set up every day, close down every day. Right? Now, granted, they're probably making a chunk of change. Okay? But here's the thing, right? That they didn't tell the public. They didn't tell the public that you can't go and vote anywhere you want to on election day. You can vote anywhere you want to, early voting. But on election day, you can only vote at your assigned polling place. And I know a lot of people were like, what? And that's something new this year. Because before, they used to allow people to vote anywhere, and, those votes would get, they would go appropriately to where they need to go. But not during this primary election anyway. During this primary election, if you wait until the actual election date, you can only vote at your assigned voting poll place. Sometimes it's a library, sometimes it's a school, sometimes it's just like, someplace, right? Also have, curbside voting, which I thought was, kind of complicated. But considering I live in America, it shouldn't be that kind of complicated, because we do a lot of things right from our cars. That's the society that we live in. Right? We can go grocery shopping right through our, right from our cars. We can pick up food from the food bank right from our cars. So it was interesting to me to see how they did things. Definitely interesting. This here is the cinnamon raisin bagel with almond butter. They wouldn't let us eat or drink in the rooms. Towards the end, I did started I started getting hungry and tired. Cause I've been up since 4:30. I've been up since 4. Well, I've really been up since 4. But I got up, used the bathroom, laid down, wrapped my head around my schedule and telling myself what exactly I was going to do. Work that out with my nervous system. And and then there went a whole half an hour. Then I went and did my walk. And then after my walk, took a shower, got ready, made my little snacks. And like I said, if I didn't have my snacks, I definitely would be probably buying something to eat right about now. Right? But before the class, I had 2 of those little yogurt squeezable things, and then like I said, I had brought 3 of those little sirloin burgers. But oh my God, that bagel is really weighing heavy in my stomach. Ugh. And then this one lady, she said, I was asking this question to her, right? I'm like, the manual, the training manual is this big, okay? And they don't give you access to the manual except the day of when you start working. Okay? So, did I say I was going to be an alternate judge? I'm not sure. But when I clicked on primary judge, that's all they had. They didn't have like alternate judge. You may be alternate, but you may be alternate, right? But it just makes sense to me that the early voting judge would still go all the way through the primaries, and that unless they can't, right? Unless they can't. And that's where you would have an alternate judge. Otherwise, there's really no need, to have somebody just be, what do you call it? Early election judge and then not be the actual voting judge on primary day. Okay, so yeah, and they were like telling us to inform people because they're gonna post it, but they haven't posted it yet, that you know, if you don't do early voting or voting by mail, then you have to go to your local office to vote. Now, when it comes to IDs, they have a whole list of IDs. Basically, you know, normal identifying ID cards and passports are acceptable, except it's not acceptable when well, it's acceptable, but it could be acceptable if you're using an alternate list, you know, for your identification, right? So, there were people, you know, they were saying that, you know, your electricity bill wasn't acceptable form, you know, your work ID, and, you know, but somehow or another, I'm thinking that your name must be pulled up, you know, in the registry. If your name is not pulled up in the registry and you're not registered, I think you had until February 2nd, you know, to register to vote if you're not registered. Now, do you have to register every year? I don't think so. But I could be wrong. Definitely Democrats. And even though the guy said, look, you know, treat people like human beings. Don't look at them as either being part of the blue party or the red party. Just treat them like human beings. Right? They have free will. They should be able to, you know, vote their preference without anybody, you know, judging them, hating them, ostracizing them, you know, sabotaging them, you know, excluding them. You know, it's just it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. If people are going to be like that, how is that any different from a dictatorship if you don't have free will? Huh? Tell me. Wow, it's 64 degrees out here. Right? Damn near 30 degrees difference than this morning. Right? Because it was what, 37? Yeah, down here in this area, they do a complete demo. They do a demo and they rebuild the house from the floor up. And that's what I'm talking about. Now these homes, some of these homes down here are like at least 100 years old. I think I'm gonna go home and take a nap. Mobile recall. I mean, it is quite warm out here. And there's procedures that you're going to have to know how to do if somebody comes in there with an interpreter. And they just breeze by, they just breeze through that. And I'm just like, really? Really? Well, if you have any problems, all you need to do is call the judge's hotline. That's all you need to do. So then we were asking them, do you have a training online? They were like, no, this is the training book right here. And he made it seem like it's this way because people are so wasteful and irresponsible. had online, right? But that training was not the judge's training. You know, and that's when I asked her, I said, is this your first time? And she said, yes. She said, but I'm familiar as an assistant because I was a clerk. Right? So, in the voting situation, you have the judge and everybody else is the clerk, and then you have poll watchers that can come in and out at will. Once they identify who they are, you have to give them a badge. You know, and I'm like, wait a minute. Can they just come and go whenever they want to? And that's when they said, well, yeah, they can come and go whenever they want to, but you keep the certificates that they presented to you for your record. And I'm like, does that mean we have to tell the employees to watch out for them? And they were like, no. You have to give them a badge. So my mind is scanning. Did they even say we had to give these poll watchers a badge? Not that I remember. The whole emphasis that they were giving to us about the poll watchers was the fact that they had to be certified and trained. And they had to show you these 2 pieces of paper. And they have to have, and we keep those pieces of paper. These poll watchers are from the respective parties. I'm like, okay. And they were also saying that for each location that these poll watchers go, they have to submit paperwork. They can't just say, well, I got a badge from this location, I can walk into your location. No. That's not happening. So if this is the type of training that they give people that are supposed to be running things, right? And I told this woman, I said, look, you know, I've been a manager, I've been a supervisor. I said, but I like to know my job. I don't like to go around here what do you call it? When, you know, lady thought that me and this dude had came together. I'm like, no, we didn't come together. Who's some white guy? Kept offering me information and stuff. I hope you didn't feel bad. But you know, sometimes it just seemed like the white boy kind of understood what I was, you know, where the gap was. It wasn't like I didn't understand the whole thing, but it's the little gaps, right? Because, you know, I feel like the devil is in the details, right? And sometimes those details can really screw you up. Like it don't matter where I go. It don't matter where I go. I always feel like I'm the oddball. I'm the oddball out. Especially when it comes to talking to women. And I think that's because, I don't know, I guess I operate from the masculine side of my brain. So when I hear you know, guys talking, it just seems like they're talking clearer than some of these women, right? When these women are talking, I got questions. So she had put me in a group. I don't remember her name. She didn't even wear her name tag. But because we were an odd number, right? So we ended up, and people were able to pair up, but there was one group that had to have 3 people in it, right? So she paired me up with these 2 guys. That black guy, Ken, and the white guy, Steven. Right? So I don't know. I think she got a little bit upset because these guys was trying to show me and verbalize what they were doing, right? Because we were 3 people. Like, okay, here's the green tab, and so this is the green key, right? And and she was saying stuff like, you're going to secure the this compartment and then secure that compartment, and I'm like, where are you getting the security latches from? Right? And they're like, you'll get the security latches in a box, along with the manual and all of this other stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, because, I seen them, already attached. So I thought they would already be attached. And that's why I had opened up to see the lockbox, right? And I'm like, well, where's the tie? And then she was like, I'm the instructor here, and I'm the one that should be talking. Right? And she's sitting up here, paying more attention, to this couple who hadn't caught up yet because they had ran out of printer paper. So they were lagging behind. She was so frustrated. Then she said, I am so sorry for being, discombobulated. But, 2 of them, right? I think 2 of them, were teaching the class on the sleeve. They didn't know they would be teaching the class. Right, and we also was telling them, and we were telling them like, hey, how the whole computer was set up, it made it seem like, well, if you want to be a judge one day and clerks on other days, that this was a possibility. And then, that guy was like, no, you have to be one or the other. So this other lady that I was speaking with, she was like, well, if that's the case, she would just prefer to be a clerk. I think she wanted the extra hours and not the responsibility. Because it was a lot.